Hey there everyone, no DMAA here coming at you with the How to Play My Hero Academia collectible card game from Jasco. So I got the PDF of the rulebook here and I'm going to guide you guys through it and we're going to have a good time doing it. So, yeah, I've been playing this with M. Galarga and Rival for a while. It's pretty fun. It took me a while to get it, but I'm getting the hang of it pretty quickly actually, surprisingly. But yeah, and I want to share you the rules before we get into my gameplay videos in July. It got pushed to July. I wanted to show you during June, but things came up. Origins came up for Digimon and it kind of threw me. I'm still trying to get back into the groove of things, at the same time taking a break from Digimon and showing you other card game stuff because that was always the plan. So let's get into My Hero Plus Ultra. Let's go. Let's see, win conditions. Let's see, lesson 0, win conditions. The My Hero Academia collectible card game is a fighting card game where you play as any of your favorite characters from the hit anime. A match in the My Hero card game is best 2 out of 3. I strongly disagree with that. It should be best of 1, but whatever. Each player has a character card and a deck of at least 50 cards. Yeah, at least 50. You can have more than 50. This game is wild. Decks contain attacks that players use to reduce their rival's health to 0. Also, if a player ever runs out of cards in their deck and has no cards left after cycling, page 13, they instantly lose the game. Yeah, so you can recycle your deck until you run out of cards, basically. Finally, some cards may provide special win conditions, allowing players to win in a unique way. Cool. So, lesson 1, game zone / setup. Each player has their own play area in the game, consisting of multiple zones. The diagram on this page explains each of the game's zones. Game setup. Players put their characters and decks in the appropriate game zones, randomly determine who will go first. The first player commits their character. Both players draw up to their hand size, so every character has a different hand size. Both players may mulligan to mulligan, follow the rules below. The first player puts their entire hand on the bottom of their deck, draws a new hand. The first player may mulligan up to 2 times and then shuffle their deck. The second player may select any number of cards in their hand to put on the bottom of the deck before drawing back to their printed hand size. They may only do this once and then shuffle their deck. Begin for the first player's turn. The first player skips their first start step on their first turn only. The second player may draw 1 additional card during the draw phase. This will mean the second player will draw above their printed hand size. Okay, so these are the zones here. So let's go number 1. Number 1 is character. Is the hero or villain you're playing. 2 is momentum. Momentum is where you store successful attacks to feel mighty abilities later. Number 3 is over here, card pool. Card pool is where you play cards during your turn, so that's where you put the stuff. 4 is the stage, so that's where you play cards that remain in play, like your foundations. 5, deck is where you put the deck. Then 6 is your graveyard, discard pile, drop zone, etc. There is no specific zone location for cards that are removed from the game, but these cards should be kept in a face-up pile outside of the play area. So the removed from game should be like over here somewhere, removed. Lesson 2, card types. There are 3 types of cards in these rival decks: characters, attacks, and foundations. Let's go over what all 3 cards have in common. Difficulty. This is how you play. The difficulty is to play. So number 1 right here. So that 6 means it has a difficulty of 6. This one means it has a difficulty of 4. This is a difficulty of 2 to play it. 2 is the card name. So is it Izuku Midoriya, Heroic Strike, Passing the Torch. 3, block. This is the value of the block. Blocks prevent your rival's attack from dealing damage. More on blocks later. So that's number 3. So this is a mid block, that's a mid block, that's a mid block. So that's the modifier for the mid block. So the lower the number, the better. Number 4, over here, card type. This icon identifies the card's type. So this is a foundation, that's an attack, that's a character. Text box. This is where any keywords or special abilities on a card will be located. So block of text, right here. 6, symbols. Every card has 3 symbols. These are used for deck building, so we'll return to these later. Check. 7, so right here. This is the value of the card when making a check to play on our card. So you rip the top card of your deck, and that's the check. So let's say I play this Heroic Strike for 4, and I flip this card over from the top of my deck. That's a 5, so it passes the check. There are 2 other card types, so we'll talk about those later. Characters. Lesson 3, All Mighto. Characters. Purple cards represent the hero or villain you have chosen to play as during the game. Your character begins in play. Starting hand size, so that's number 1. So this All Might has a 5, so that means your hand size is 5. The number in the card icon is your starting hand size. This is the number of cards you will begin the game with, and during your draw phase, on each of your turns, you will draw until you have that many cards. Maximum health is right here, so All Might has 30 health. The number in the heart icon is your character's maximum health. This is how much health you begin the game with. You can never have more health than this number. 3. Virgin. The numerical number here will identify which version of the character the card represents. There will be different versions of many characters. This is important to differentiate which version of the character you are playing. You do not need to play your character to start the game. Some characters may have additional playstyles using additional characters in their deck. Only character cards that match both name and version with your starting character may be attached and added. So that's 3. So there's like All Might 1, there's All Might 2, there's Deku 1, there's Deku 2, etc. So these are your characters. Pretty cool. They're basically your leaders if you know Dragon Ball or One Piece, so they're basically your leader cards. Pretty dope. Foundations, so they're the white cards. Foundations, gray cards. Expand a character's abilities. Most foundations do not have an effect on the turn they are played. However, on following turns, they provide a player access to more abilities or the chance to play more cards than they otherwise would be able to, while in hand. Foundations may be used to block attacks on passing the torch. The block symbol has the mid-zone identifier. This will be explained in further detailing in the block section. While on stage, the abilities on the foundation may be used. Foundations also serve as the main way to mitigate luck during the game. This process is called committing. Commit. The foundation is turned 90 degrees. Cards are not committed or ready. So it's up, ready, committed. Each foundation committed after you make a check gives +1 to the check. So they help mitigate the luck anyway. So say like you need to get a 6, and you flip this over, it's a 5. You need 1, so you need to tap 1 foundation to make it pass the check. You cannot commit more foundations than the amount needed to pass the check. So you can't overextend, basically. Oh yeah, I can see how that could be busted. It could. Attacks. Attack orange cards are your primary source of dealing damage to your rival. Properties of attacks. So it's high attack, red, mid attack, orange, low attack, yellow. The number in this icon is the speed of the attack. The color of the arrow will be red, orange, or yellow to indicate the zone. The number in this icon is the base damage this attack will deal unblocked. So this would be reverse throw, one of the best cards I've seen in the game so far. So this is a 2 mid for 5 damage. 2 mid speed for 5 damage. That's how you would read it. Let's see. Most attacks will also have keywords. Keywords are terms like punch, fury, or throw. Some keywords are traits, which are only referenced by other cards. Other keywords will be highlighted with a card such as throw on reverse. This means the keyword is shorthand for an ability. So the keywords are over here. Punch, throw. Throw. If this attack is completely blocked, it deals half damage. So it's kind of like D&D, where it's like, I'm going to hurt you anyway. So those are attacks. Actions and assets. Actions, blue cards, are special events or abilities that can seriously impact the game. Abilities on these cards are played from your hand. You can play them anytime that a similar ability can be played. Example, enhanced abilities on an action card can only be played during the enhanced step. Actions stay in your card pool after they are played or are discarded if the check to play them fails. So that's pretty good, you know. Like, I've been playing Eraserhead, and yeah, action cards are awesome. My rival plays Dark Shadow, so he was doing this. Like, while this card is in your card pool, your attacks get +1 speed and 1+1 damage. So he keeps it in there just to get that buff. Enhance your next check to play a card this turn gets +3. Commit your character. That is so good. Assets. Green cards can be tools, allies, or even special locations used to help get a leg up in the game or battle. Assets are similar to foundations, but you cannot commit them in order to pass the checks. Because of this, they tend to have strong abilities. So they're similar to foundations, except you can't commit them. I haven't actually used the deck that uses these, so I can't really talk more about these. Like, I think they're really strong because my Galarga uses a weapon one with Momo on it in his Stain deck, and it's pretty good every time he uses it. So, action cards. Turn sequence, lesson 7. Alright, your turn is divided into 3 phases: the start phase, the combat phase, and the end phase, in that order. The first player skips the start phase on their first turn. During your ready step, ready all committed characters in your stage. Ready, committed. Lesson 8. start phase. This phase contains 3 steps: the ready step, the reveal step, and the draw step. In that order. During your ready step, you ready all the characters in your stage. During your reveal step, you may discard up to 1 card before drawing for the draw phase. This is called revealing. During the draw phase, you draw up to your character's hand size. So basically, when you ready everybody, you can actually pitch a card just to get to draw more card, 1 extra card during your draw phase, so you can while you're drawing up to your hand size, basically. So you ready these up, cards in hand. Finally, during your draw phase, you draw all the way back to your character's hand size. Izuku Midoriya has a hand size of 6. During your reveal step, you may choose 1 card from your hand to discard while doing that. It's pretty good. Yeah, so let's start phase. Combat phase. This kind of looks like the way I was playing when I first started. The combat phase is the main phase of the game. During your combat phase, you may do any of the following things any number of times. Play an attack, foundation, asset, or character card. If you fail to try to play one of these card types during your turn, immediately move to the end phase. So basically, if you fail to check, your turn's over. Play form abilities on cards in your stage or on action cards in your hand. If you fail to play a form ability on an action card during your turn, immediately move to the end phase. At any point except during an attack sequence, you may pass and end your combat phase. Let's see. So, did not deal damage, discarded, dealt damage, momentum. Mfar Galarga and I flip the card upside down, actually, when they deal damage, so it's just easier to see. This pass the check, so it goes into the foundation, this goes to momentum at the end phase, and this just goes away. End phase. In this phase, the card pools are cleared to end the turn. To clear your card pool, move cards from your card pool to other zones using the following rules. The player whose turn it is clears their card pool first. Clear your card pool going from right to left. Build any foundations or assets played during your turn to the stage, and add any characters played during your turn to your stage and attach them to your starting character. You may add any of your attacks that dealt damage to your momentum, see page 21. All other cards are discarded, and your rival will place all cards in their card pool in the discard pile from right to left. After your end phase, your rival's turns begin, and we start it all over again. It's pretty neat. Playing cards. Heroes, listen up if you want to become a pro. Nice. You will have to master the art of progressive difficulty in order to play as many cards as you can. Let's go through an example sequence to help hone your skills. When playing a card, add it to the leftmost empty spot in your card pool. You can now determine the difficulty. Start with the printed difficulty, top left of the card, so passing torch S2. Then add your progressive difficulty to determine the total difficulty. To find progressive difficulty, just count each card in the card pool before the card you are trying to play. This is your progressive difficulty. Once you know the total difficulty, you can make a check. Important, the card pool always fills from left to right, and new cards will always be placed to the right of all the other cards in your card pool. So if this is the first card, so you go 2 plus 0, it's 2. Then if it's the next card, it's 2 plus 1 is 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, etc., etc. So it gets harder as you keep playing more cards. Making a check. The total difficulty to play passing the torch is 2. So the progressive difficulty is 0. I just went over this. It's 2. So the total is 2. And now you need to check a 2 or greater. To make a check, discard the top card of your deck. So you discard a Delaware Smash. Its check value is the bottom number in the blue. So that's a 3. Its check value is the blue number in the bottom right. If that blue number is equal to or greater than your total difficulty, you've successfully played your card. In the example, you check the Delaware Smash, which has a check of 3. Cycling. When your deck runs out of cards, shuffle your discard pile to create a new deck, and then remove the top 10 cards of your new deck from the game. If you ever run out of cards after this process, you've exhausted yourself and lost the game. Yeah, cycling makes sense. That's like basically refresh and waste, except you don't have to do the top 10 card thing. Playing cards continued, lesson 11. Now it comes down to this, the moment of truth. Here's an example of playing a card later in your turn. You're trying to play a second copy of Bonds of Friendship on difficulty 4. Plus 3 plus 1 equals 4. Yeah, so 3 plus 1 is 4. Total difficulty, because you play all this stuff before it. Oh no, you've checked the Delaware Smash with a check of 3 because you're unlucky like me, I guess. To pass the check, you can commit any number of ready foundations. You can also commit your character card. Each card committed this way will add plus 1 to the check. So if you check a 3 and need a 4, you can commit 1 card to add plus 1 to your check, totaling the 4 and passing the check. If you fail to play a card, the card you try to play will go to the discard pile. Important, when trying to play a card, you must either commit enough cards to pass the check or no cards. So like in this example, it's a 3, you needed a 4, so you tap the All Might leader to make it 4. So that's how that works. Yeah, that's how that works. Let's see. Lesson 12, Enhanced Step. Listen up, heroes, because this is important. When you play an attack, you enter the attack sequence, which consists of 3 steps: the Enhanced Step, the Block Step, and the Damage Step. Once an attack is successfully played, you will enter the Enhanced Step. Starting with the player who played the attack, both players take turns playing enhanced abilities. The attacking player decides to either play an enhanced ability or pass. Then the defending player chooses to play an enhanced ability or pass. This will continue back and forth until both players pass consecutively. Once the enhanced step ends, the block step begins. So these are the enhanced abilities that they're allowed to use. Abilities, enhances. Lesson 13. There are 2 main types of abilities in the My Hero game: enhances and responses. Each enhanced ability can only be used during an attack sequence only once per attack. Enhanced abilities are separated into 2 parts: the cost and the effect. Everything before the icon is the cost that you must pay to play the ability. Once the cost has been paid, the effect will occur and the order is written on the card. Here are some of the costs explained. There are many other costs for abilities throughout the game. Commit means to commit this character, or this card. Flip means to flip this card face down and no longer has any abilities, but is still a foundation. Destroy means place this card from your stage into the discard pile. Destroy one foundation means place one foundation from your stage into your discard pile. Discard one momentum means to spend 1 momentum and place it into your discard pile. Discard 2 cards means to discard 2 cards. Abilities on committed cards cannot be played unless the ability states playable while committed. Pretty good. So these Bakugo are examples. So this has response, this has enhance, discard 2 cards so you can draw 2 cards. Enhance flip, so you flip this card over. Enhance flip, discard 2 cards. Then enhance commit. So yeah, those are the Bakugo cards. They were just examples. So abilities, responses. Heroes need to adapt and act quickly when confronted with a challenge. Responses are abilities that can only be played when a specific condition is met. Some responses will have costs just like enhances, but in these decks, the response abilities have no cost. Oh yeah, they're talking about the starter decks in general. That's what they mean by that. Let's look over some examples. The response on rigorous training can only be played once it has been built into your stage. The responsibility on Katsuku Bakugo can only be played once one of your blocked Fury attacks finished resolving. Aggressive Temper can only be played after it enters your discard pile. Also, some abilities are restricted to specific characters as noted on the card. For example, Burst Speed can only be played if your character has Bakugo in its name. So that's what it means by Bakugo response. Your leader character has to be that person, basically, for that card to work. Block Step. Your rival has attacked and the enhanced step is complete. Now the block step begins, where you try to block an attack and try to reduce the damage you will take. Blocks have 3 possible zones, just like attacks: high, low, and mid. I said that in the wrong order, but high and mid zones are adjacent. Low and mid zones are adjacent. Mid zone is adjacent to both high and low zones. High and low zones are not adjacent zones. So basically, if someone's going to swing at you high, you can't low block that. That doesn't make sense. They're going to hit your head. You're guarding lower when they're hitting high. Mid can try to hit both because it's in the middle. That makes sense to me. In order to block an attack, the block zone must match or be adjacent to the attack zone. You may only try to block once per attack, and you are not required to block even if you have a card with the matching block zone in hand. Successful blocks stay in your card pool until the end phase, while a failed block is added to your discard pile. So like this Deku, it's a high attack. High attacks can be blocked by high blocks or mid blocks. Mid attacks can be blocked by any kind of block because it's a mid, and then low can only be blocked by mid and low, obviously. So basically, if you try to do the adjacent thing, you're taking half damage basically because you're partial blocking. Let's take a look at how to block and deal damage. First, you'll need to determine the total block difficulty. To determine the total block difficulty, add your rival speed plus your block modifier plus your progressive difficulty. So I think it's over here already. So the rival's attack is coming at you for 3 high for 4 damage. So you need to add that to the block modifier plus your progressive difficulty in order to block. So let's see. So it's 3 mid, your modifier is 2, so that makes 5, and that's the first card you're playing in your card pool, so it's 0. So you're trying to check a 5 to block this attack. Partial block. If you successfully pass the check, you reduce the amount of damage you take depending on the zone of the attack and the zone of the block. When you block an attack, if your block zone completely matches the zone of the attack, you will take no damage. If you choose not to block or fail to block an attack, you will take health equal to the total damage. If you block an attack with an adjacent block zone, you will take half damage rounded up. So yeah, basically you're partial blocking and then round up damage. So block step continued. Let's see, this is an example. So signature right swing is a 3-speed high zone attack with 4 damage. Let's check your hand to see if we can block. Signature right swing is a high attack. It can only be blocked by high blocks and mid blocks. We have the following cards in hand: Velocity Punch, Passing the Torch, and Rigorous Training. The only 2 cards we can block with are Rigorous Training and Passing the Torch. Let's block with Rigorous Training to take half damage because they're both mids. Start by adding Rigorous Training to the leftmost empty slot in your card pool, then determine the total block. So the attack coming at you is 3 high, so it's a 3 speed, plus the block modifier, that's your first block, so 3 plus 2 is 5. So you need to get a 5. Let's see, then make a check against the difficulty. We checked note taking, so we flipped over note taking, and we got a 5. Since the check was equal, the block was successful. Very good. Pretty sure you're taking partial damage though. Momentum, lesson 16. Let's go, plus ultra. Momentum is an extremely useful resource during any game. Some of the card abilities will cost momentum as a cost for their effects. These effects are powerful enough to swing many games in your favor. Some effects will gain you momentum, but the main way to gain momentum is by dealing damage with your attacks. During the end phase of each turn, each player may add any of their attacks that dealt damage to their momentum. Here are 2 examples of cards that utilize your momentum. So this Blast Rush Turbo and Aspirating Punch. So enhance discard momentum. This attack gets plus 1 damage for each Fury in your discard pile. Enhance discard momentum. On this attack gets plus 5 speed. Only playable if this attack's damage is 10 or greater. So those are example of cards that use momentum, and you get really strong abilities out of it. Alright, lesson 17. Advanced lessons, the game beyond these rival decks. So you've played a bunch of games with these rival decks, and now you're ready to build your own unique deck. Here's some important information to help you do so. Your deck must consist of 1 starting character and a minimum of 50 other cards. The suggested ratio is 30% attacks to 70% non-attacks. You may include up to 4 copies of any card in your deck. Symbols. So basically that's how you build decks. You can have more than 50. I think I have like 55 at most in one of my decks. I know M. Larga has like a 60 card deck. I think that's a Stain deck or some other deck. I don't remember. But let's talk about the symbols because I actually don't know them all, so let's go over them. There are 12 symbols in the My Hero card game. These symbols are used for deck building. Every card has 3 symbols printed on them. Different symbols specialize in different aspects of gameplay. A list of the 12 symbols and their names is featured here. So there's air, all, chaos, death, earth, evil, fire, good, life, order, void, and water. Pretty dope. All cards in your deck must match the same 1 symbol with your character. For example, if you wanted to build a Midoriya deck, I mean. Man, I said his name wrong for some reason. That's messed up. Deku. Using cards featuring All Might and Kirishima, you would choose to play a deck with each card having the good symbol. So each card has 3 symbols. Your whole deck has to match one of them. So that's not terrible, you know. So I think the decks I've been leaning towards are Death and Void, because Nomu is Death, and then I'm playing Void Eraserhead. It's pretty dope, you know. Like, I love this game. This game is really fun. So you're going to see some gameplay in July, like I mentioned earlier. So going over the rules now, so when those videos come out, you'll have some kind of context of what's going on if you're not into the game. Let's see, we got some questions here. Might as well go through some of these. There are only 6 spaces on the playmat. Does this mean I can only play 6 cards per turn? The playmat provided is only for learning purposes. You may play as many cards per turn as you are able to pass checks for. What's the difference between discarding a card from your card pool and discarding from your hand? All instances of discard mean to place a specific card into the discard pile. Instruction to discard a card refer to a card in hand unless a card in a specific game zone is called out. Okay, is there a maximum hand size? No, there isn't. However, if you have more cards in your hand than your starting hand, you will not draw any cards during the start phase. So you can have past your hand size, but you won't draw any more cards. If I flip a card, do I need to commit it? No. If you flip a card, flip it in the same state of ready or committed it is then. Yeah, that makes sense. How many times can I play an enhanced ability? Each enhanced ability on the card may be only used once per enhanced step, provided you can pay the cost of the ability. For example, if you need to commit a card to pay for an enhance, you cannot commit a card that is already committed. Yeah. Izuku Midoriya and Setup Strike both say next attack gets and modify the values of the next attack. Will this carry over to my next turn? No. Unless otherwise stated, all card effects end during the end phase of each player's turn. Can I block a card to my stage? No. Blocks may only be played from the hand, though you may block as many attacks in the turn as you are able to. Cards may be played as forms, or they may have form abilities. What does form mean? A form is an action, not an action card, taken during the combat phase that furthers the game state and occurs outside of the attack sequence. That's good to know. Are there abilities other than enhanced responsibilities? Yes, there are other types of abilities such as form abilities and continuous not played abilities. From abilities, misspelled. Form abilities are played during the combat phase. At the same time, the player can normally play a card from their hand. Continuous abilities do not need to be played and their effects are always active, provided the condition is met. The conditions for these effects are included in the game text on the card. Where can I find a full list of the keywords in the game? The keywords are listed in the rules reference on the card game website. You can scan the QR code on the back or visit. Don't forget the golden rule. If a card tells you to do something that contradicts the rules, follow the instructions in the card. Yeah, that makes sense. So here's the reference for everything we went through. So we went through all this. I think this, so it's like start a game, turn sequence, end phase, playing a card. So we kind of already went over this. I just kind of made a quick reference sheet about it. Attack sequence. This is pretty good. I think that's the end of it. Yeah, I think that's the end. That's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching my how to play My Hero card game video. It was very fun going through the rules and memorizing it myself because I'm still kind of a new player trying to get better at this game. Trying to win the goggles back. I still have not won the goggles back. We will get there. We are learning the rules. We're hitting the books, quite literally. We just hit this book. It's 24 pages. Front and back. Ross. But yeah. Plus Ultra, everyone. See y'all next time.